Maybe, maybe I'm back on. I don't know. Guess we'll see in a second. Guess we'll see in a second. Oh, well. Okay, well. Somebody come in, so it's pushing me back out, I guess, so I guess I am back up. Wow, that was strange. Had to restart my life here. I guess you just gotta restart it though. Anybody who follows Jesus, like the Christ, to be Christ-like, if you profess to be Christ-like, you're, I guess, meet the minimum qualification for a Christian to me. But yeah, my live got shut down a second ago. I don't know what everybody was saying. Nobody knew what happened, but they said I apparently violated community standards somehow or another. But it did push me out to us, so I guess if it restricts you live, you just start over, I guess. Which still kind of sucks on its own, but I wish I would have knew what it was that I had said there, but because I would not say it again in the future, but I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what it was, even though I got it restricted there. I'm not sure what the live was about, so I don't know. So I don't even know if I could be restricted right now, but it's obviously this. What got filtered? Oh no, maybe it's just TikTok. It's been weird all day. It usually shows me the filtered ones. But I guess I went. Obviously, another person came in, so it didn't totally stop my live, but I don't know. I don't know, man. Guess I'll just give it a little bit longer and see what happens, because I'm not sure. Maybe I'm restricted, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I wouldn't think anybody at all would have been here if I was completely restricted. But at the same time, maybe I am. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Guess I'll just give it a few minutes. Thank you for the likes on the live there, by the way. Maybe I'm not. I mean, I just now restarted it, and I guess there's people coming back in now. So I guess I'm all right. This is just TikTok being weird or doing something I don't understand. I don't know, but I had to reset the live here over some HATE speech that nobody seemed to know what it was. So, I don't know. I thought it was being really nice. Maybe I'm not. I hope I'm not. There's definitely a few more people came in. So anyway, Guess we're back. Like I lost my guest. Like was having a really good conversation there, so maybe he'll come back too. If you're still out there, guest, come back up, man. You was that was a great conversation. Oh, just like fight arena, so debate, I guess. I don't know. I just like the Coliseum. I've got a Roman coin that's got Vespasian on it in the Coliseum. I like the name of that. Yeah. Well, we'll see if it'll push us back out to some Christians for some more debate here. Davis, I just think the world, humanity will be better off once we put Abrahamic religions in a box, mark the stuff we learned our lesson about in history, and get rid of it. It's divisive by its very nature, so got a lot of historical problems with it, I guess. Oh, well, you don't have to debate. You can just listen. Just think about it. That's what most people do. I'm not a great debater either, unless it's like stuff I already know, I guess. And I've been on this kind of kick like this for over a decade now. So might have somebody here. Let's see. Kami Kazoo.
So, man.
Hey, you there? You over 18?
Yeah,
Awesome. Are you one of those Christians?
one of those. I mean, I don't know, but I am a Christian.
Oh, you are a Christian then.
Oh, yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, do you see one of these debate topics you like here? You want to talk about, or you just got a question, or what's up?
Well, I mean, I have a point, but it pertains to other Christians that you might want to be aware of. I don't know if you are, and I don't know if I can convince you, but we'll see. This is my thought. It's that children of God don't sin, and therefore any Christian that comes on here and tells you that they follow Christ but also sin, they're lying.
Well, you basing that on like First John chapter 3?
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it seems to be just a misconception from lots of Christians have, based on First John 3 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like most people who claim Christ don't really follow him. Am I tripping on that?
No, you're probably right. I mean, even if you even assume it's all right and Jesus was right, Jesus says very few people are going to actually enter heaven because there are very few are righteous.
So here's my thought. With that in mind, when people come on and, claim they're Christian and try to defend it, I've been thinking, I think what Christians are supposed to do is, especially to other, quote unquote Christians, is to preach repentance and remission of sins. And oddly enough, like the people that would come on your panel, the people that claim they're Christian and therefore they want to fight for it, they're usually the ones that still live in sin and defend it so
Well,
hard.
maybe, but I mean, nobody's perfect, man. Like, I mean, it's kind of a what do you call it? The no true Scotsman's fallacy to say who the real Christians are, I guess.
That's what they say, but scripture shows us. And I know you said 1 John 3. Now, specifically in verse 10, it shows us that there's a difference between children of God and children of the devil, and they're made manifest based on whether or not one does righteousness and the other doesn't. And one loves his
Yeah, so
brother and the other doesn't.
I'm one of the ones of the devil. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. But I will say this, man. At
Well, I mean,
least you
you're either
know
one
it.
or the other, ain't you?
The thing is, Christians think they're of God, but they still sin, and it doesn't make any sense. It's hypocritical.
Oh.
So that's
Well, I mean,
one thing.
I don't think anybody should be a Christian personally. That's why I do these debate topics here of any sort of Christianity. Although
Okay.
some bother me to obviously to more degrees than the others.
Is it because you think it's made up?
Yeah, I know it's made up. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I got no fight there,
Even though
man.
I was a Christian until I was 27 years old, though.
What changed your mind?
The Bible.
You read it and you were like, yeah, this is trash.
Yeah, I read it all the time now.
What made you think it was trash?
Well, just reading it, like just knowing what's going on. Like the New Testament, there's no way that whoever wrote the New Testament has any idea what's going on in the Old Testament for real. Like they're just literally cherry picking lines and making it about Jesus that stood in the first century. But if you actually go read the prophecies that the New Testament is saying that Jesus is fulfilling, then they're completely out of context. They don't have anything to do with what the New Testament is saying they have to do with.
Is that true? There's a
Yeah.
there's a chapter about mine that I heard about. People like showing Jewish people this because it's supposed to show that Christ was in the Old Testament. You know what I'm talking about?
Wait, say that last part again?
Do you know what I'm talking about? I think it was like Isaiah 53 or some shit.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I love Isaiah
Isn't that
53. Yeah. It's about Israel. It's not about Jesus. It says that. If you've actually read Isaiah, it says it over and over and over again. It's talking about, it literally says, like in the Christian mind, Jesus, his sacrifice, I guess, would be like make this new blood covenant, right? But if you actually read Isaiah, the Israelites themselves are the light to the nations. They are the covenant. And like it says this over and over again, like in chapter 41 of Isaiah, it says God is going to take the Israelites by the hand when he brings them out of captivity. And then in chapter 42, when it describes what the servant's mission is, it says that God is holding their hand and giving them as a covenant to the people. So you know he's holding Israel's hand, and you know he's giving them as this covenant. And that's what I think one of the fundamental misunderstandings that the New Testament seems to have of the Old Testament is.
So what do you think that, like specifically, what do you think Israel went through for chapter 53 to match them?
The Babylonian captivity. They were in captivity. Like it even says it. It says they have chains on their necks. They're made slaves for 70 years. Like if you read Isaiah and Jeremiah, the way it's happening is the Israelites break the covenant that God made with them when he brought them out of Egypt, right? They break this covenant. They stop keeping his laws and they turn to other gods. God does not like this. So he says, I'm going to punish you severely. He says, I'm going to deal you the blow of a merciless foe. He's going to have an army besiege them. He destroys Jerusalem. He says it's going to be a desolate, uninhabited land for 70 years. But he says once this 70 years is over and he's purged them of their sins, then once this happens, he's going to raise up a king from the line of David that's never going to go away. He says he's going to raise up a line of Levitic priests that's going to make sacrifices forever upon all this happening. This Messiah is just a king in a line of kings. It's just a guy who's going to be the Israelite king from the throne of David, who's going to have descendants, who's going to rule after him. It's not like a Messiah that comes and rules as God or anything of the sort. So once all this happens, the entire world is going to be so shocked by this transformation that Israel goes through that the entire world is going to come to Yahweh through the Israelites. Like in Isaiah, it says over and over again, Israel is my servant in whom I will be glorified. So God is saying Israel is going to glorify himself through the Israelites over and over and over again in the Old Testament.
Okay. As far as the Old Testament, I know Jewish people only follow the Old. They believe that there's a Messiah coming as well. What about that?
Yeah, they're
Are
still
they
waiting on it. Yeah.
misinterpreting it?
Well, no, they have a sort of a way out of it. If you ask like a Jewish rabbi right now, they would say that these covenants are interrupted on the basis that the Messiah obviously never came because they never had worldwide peace that lasted for eternity. So you could say the Messiah never came because the prophecy didn't happen, but you have to say it's interrupted. The problem is the Old Testament doesn't suggest that these are ever going to be interrupted. It says he's going to redeem them after the captivity. And it uses this wording over and over in Jeremiah and Isaiah. Like it says, the city's going to be rebuilt and it'll never again be uprooted or overthrown. Isaiah says Cyrus is going to free the exiles and rebuild the city. And it says they will never again be confounded or put to shame. It says there's always going to be a king on the throne of David. It says the Levitic priests are going to make sacrifice forever. So, I mean, these are all real clear. We can read it if you want. But this is all really clear language.
Yeah, that makes sense. But here's the question. If the Jews are waiting for Messiah and they only have the Old Testament, right? And I know you said there's a lot of they got excuses for why, it wouldn't have happened yet. Can the Messiah that
Right.
they're thinking of be a human being? I feel
Yeah,
like that
we know
wouldn't
it's a
fit.
human. It has to come from the loins of David. Like it literally has to be in the genetic line of King David
Right. Okay.
to be this Messiah. And there's other stuff too, actually, but it literally says when this Messiah comes, there's going to be worldwide peace forever, and that's kind of in line with what I was just saying. You know,
Isn't that
the
like
whole world is
impossible?
going to be peaceful, huh?
Yeah, but isn't eternal peace impossible for a human to bring? So the Messiah would have to be.
Oh yeah. This is why I'm not Jewish, and this is why most Jews today aren't Jewish. Like literally, half the Jews in Israel right now are completely secular. They're all atheists because they know their book and they know this stuff can't happen anymore.
Mm. So, but
But
the
it's like
Messiah
it's what
can't
I'm
be a
telling
human,
you,
right?
and then there's the New Testament coming along way later and trying to reinterpret all this stuff to be about like Jesus and this type of salvation when the Old Testament is clearly saying the day of salvation is the day that the captives are released from Babylon.
Right, but the Messiah, the way it's described, I mean, for example, eternal peace is not capable for, like, a human wouldn't be able to do that, right? So whenever the Bible talks
No,
about Messiah,
God is supposed to do that. Yeah.
so wouldn't it be that, I mean, I know the Jews are waiting for a divine being, although he is human from the loins of David, he is also capable of bringing eternal peace. The only person I can think of that could do that is a non-full human.
Well, it's God. God's making all this happen, and God is making all this happen for God. This is all for God's amusement. Like it says that too. Like what we can read it real quick if you want, but there's a new covenant. A new covenant is formed, like, and it's real explicit in Jeremiah. But it says once this redemption happens, God is going to write His laws on the heart and mind of everybody. He's saying nobody anymore is going to have to ask who God is or where God is or anything of the sort. He says everyone will know me, the entire world. Like Isaiah is real explicit about that too. It says the entire world is going to see this redemption happen for themselves.
Well,
And it says
doesn't that
kings
mean
are
it
going to
didn't happen?
prostrate themselves and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Before
Doesn't that,
Israel, before the Israelites.
doesn't that mean it didn't happen yet? They're waiting on it to happen?
Yeah, it can't happen. It didn't happen, and it can't happen now.
Right, but they're
But
like, it
that's what
never
I'm saying.
happened, so they're
They're
waiting on it.
coping with that today by saying this Messiah never came. So they're saying these prophecies are interrupted, is what they're calling it. But realistically, there's no room for interruption. Like it says, all this is going to happen. And like, listen to this line right here. It says, if this fixed order were to ever cease from my presence, says the Lord, then the offspring of Israel will cease to be a nation before me forever.
Can you say that again?
This is in the new covenant of Jeremiah. It says what the new covenant is, and then it says this right after that. This is in line 36 in Jeremiah 31. It says, if this fixed order were to ever cease from my presence, says the Lord, then the offspring of Israel will also cease to be a nation before me forever.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this is right after the Babylonian captivity. So, like, obviously, a lot of times I can read this to the Christians, and they'll say, oh, yeah, clearly that didn't happen. And it's that easy. The problem is they say it's going to happen later in Jesus, which makes no sense to the actual context of the story here. You know what I mean? But like, it's easy to see this prophecy clearly didn't happen. I mean, it's clearly worded. We know exactly when it is. Like, it's all clear. You know what I mean? But clearly, this prophecy didn't happen.
Interesting. What about, okay, so Old Testament and New Testament, which one's like more baloney to you? Baloney?
What do you
Foolish?
mean?
Like, are
Well,
they
the New
both just
Testament
kind
is
of,
because the Old Testament is here. The Old Testament is just like a perceived Jewish history, basically. Like it's exactly what you see in all ancient history accounts of themselves for the most part. They're not necessarily concerned with getting accurate history. They're just mythologizing their story and making, they're explaining why bad things happen to them with their God and stuff. They're like, obviously God's punishing us because we were enslaved for 70 years in Babylon. That's a historical account. But they're making it about God being mad at them. But it's just like a mythologized account, that especially the New Testament ran away with later on. But yeah, it's just stories that got expounded upon by other stories. It's like the New Testament come along and made a new religion about this religion way after the fact, and then the Book of Mormon comes along 2,000 more years later and makes it like a new interpretation of the New Testament. You know what I'm saying? It's the same difference. Like what the Book of Mormon did to the New Testament did the same thing to the Old Testament.
Hmm. Okay. I can kind of see that, I guess. Hey, thanks for that perspective, man. I'm gonna go mull that over. Thanks for talking with me.
Yeah, no problem, man. I've got some. If you want to check out some of my videos, like I got one that's I don't know, I can't remember. It's probably like 45 minutes, but I actually read like all of Deutero Isaiah that we're talking about that leads up to 53, and I actually give commentary and like explain what it's talking about, and I read the actual contextual parts and stuff. If you're interested, check those out. You know what I'm saying? That's why I put them there.
Okay, that's on your page?
Yeah. I've got a bunch of videos up, but I've got
Okay.
other debate stuff. I've got other debate segments I've had, but I've got like where I read Isaiah, and then I've got other parts where I just make certain arguments about certain things based on. But I always use the Bible. I just read the Bible for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, man, I'll give you a follow. I'm gonna mull that over. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that, and
Yeah,
it was nice talking to you,
it was, man.
man. It's just crazy how like some people are so rational. Like you can just read it to somebody with a rational brain. You're like, yeah, that's crazy. Other people are like Elon Musk and Neuralink's putting wires in your brain. But anyway, so welcome back, David. So yeah, it fired me up to a few people, but I still feel like it's really laggy on this time now or something. I don't know, I guess. What about the Bible? I was reading some of these comments I got here. Well, it's definitely pushing me back out there. I still don't know why we got restricted the first time, but I guess all you gotta do is restart the thing here. I thought I had another guest waiting too, but I guess I don't. Oh, maybe I do. We got a Mahmood here. Mahmood, you there?
Yo, what's up? How are you?
What's up, man? I'm doing good. Are you over 18?
I am, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, are you a Christian?
No, I just saw at the last second that you said Christians only, right?
Oh yeah. What did you? I mean, you're up here. You got a question or something or comment you
So,
want to throw out while you're up here?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're from the States, of course, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And why'd you leave? It was,
Leave Christianity?
yeah.
Oh, because of the Bible.
Like what exactly?
It's just the way it's written. It gets itself wrong. It gets history wrong, theology wrong, like everything I would expect a
I
holy
see.
book of divine truth to get right.
Okay. Have you looked into the other top three?
What do you mean, though?
Top three, like, so Christianity is number one, then the other top three religions. The other, like,
Oh yeah, I've read a bunch of holy books and stuff for like the last, I don't know, almost a decade. Though I've just focused back on the Bible and Christianity mostly, since it's what I'm surrounded by here.
you're probably in the Bible Belt, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Do I sound that hick to you?
exactly. Yeah, I bet.
No, it's cool. I hear you. It's funny. Yeah, we're ghetto hick. Yeah, I grew up in the Bible Belt. It's all about Jesus.
Now you grew up in a culture part of America, honestly, the only culture part of America, honestly.
Oh yeah. I'm from North Alabama,
I'm from Jersey.
Jersey. I hear you.
Yeah,
I've been up there before.
except from
I got yelled
Alabama, I've
at for trying
never.
to pump my own gas, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Well, you were the only state. The only state. Yeah, it's crazy. I've never been to Alabama.
Oh wait, actually, Oregon does that too. I heard.
Oregon as well? I didn't know.
Yeah, you in Oregon apparently. Or actually, maybe Oregon quit, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty
but
wild though.
yeah. You watching the World Series?
Oh no, I don't watch sports too much, man.
Nah.
I usually work during them, so I don't
Yeah, I
have
feel
time
you.
to watch them.
No UFC?
I actually did MMA for 10 years when I was younger, but I've been out of that for a while too now.
That's what's up. I mean, it's good that you had it under your belt.
I loved it. I actually have some regrets, man. I think getting punched in my head for 10,000 times for a decade straight made me slow or some shit. Or slower than I already was.
You got the experience now.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm glad I did it, man. It was good. It was a good time in my life. It was fun. I proved stuff to myself, I guess. So it was
100%.
cool. It was cool.
I want to
I did
do.
pretty good too. I only lost 2 fights in my whole career, so I did pretty good. Not that
Oh,
I fought
wow.
anybody super special or anything.
And it was mixed martial arts, mixed martial.
Yeah, yeah. I'm 41 now. I was doing it back before it was. I mean, the UFC was popular when I was doing it, but not like it is now, where like UFC fighters are all household names and shit.
And you probably didn't have that much padding back then either.
Well, there was some padding, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I want to do
But
boxing.
yeah, I did it. I was doing it before, like jujitsu still wasn't even like a super widespread thing. Like around here, like we had a serious leg up on people jujitsu wise just because we were way ahead of the curve on people. But now there's like a jujitsu school on every corner. This
Yeah,
is the difference.
we got jujitsu up here too. Jujitsu is a nice sport.
Oh, I loved it, man. I would actually, if I had the time, I'd still do it again. But I guess I've moved from the warrior phase of my life onto the philosopher phase. So I'll just be old now.
Well, who's your favorite philosophers?
Diogenes is probably my overall favorite, but my most read is probably Lucretius for sure, Epicurus.
Who's the first guy?
Diogenes, the dog.
Oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, he's actually the one that coined the phrase, the love of money is the root of all evil.
He's the one who told Alexander to get out of his son, right?
Remove yourself, Alexander. Yeah, he told him fuck off. He's a fucking legend. Yeah, he definitely practiced what he preached, I guess.
What about Machiavelli?
Don't know much about him. I thought that was a gangster, actually.
He was like one of the, how do you say it? Evil philosophers.
Like Nietzsche.
Like Nietzsche, kind of. Yeah.
Nietzsche's cool, man. I do like Nietzsche, but his brutal honesty just kind of throws me off, honestly. It's like, you
He's
can't
a
just say that. It's too obvious.
he's a bit rough, and one of his book is called like Gay Sciences, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, it was out there.
Yeah, he was rough, and he had a horrible life.
Yeah, I think he spent probably the last 10 years of his life like as some weird, crazy vegetable type disease.
Just
It is
writing.
pretty sad. Oh, hey, bud, I might have let me see if I got a debate up here. If we do, I'll drop you back. If not, we can
No
see.
problem.
Hey man,
Airborne, you there?
yeah, I'm there.
Are you over 18?
Yes, sir.
Are you one of them Christians?
Yes, I'm a Christian, and I'm
Oh,
not here to disrespect. Just want to let you know that I'm not here to troll, not here to
oh,
disrespect.
sure.
But I am curious, what's your reason to debate Christians?
I just like debating for one reason and stuff like that, but I do think humanity will be a better place once we get, if it gets to the point where we can just get rid of the Abrahamic religions altogether.
Well, why do you think that we should get rid of all religions?
I just think they're divisive by their nature. I mean, look what's happened through history over them.
Well, I mean, like, true that. I mean, there's a
Oh,
lot
I'm
of,
sorry. Just 1 second. I'm gonna
sickness.
drop you back, Mahmood. Sorry about that. Thanks for coming up, buddy. It was nice talking to you. Throw me a follow if you don't care. All right. I'm sorry, Airborne. Go ahead there.
Sorry. So me being a Christian believer, I believe in Jesus and God because they saved me. I think they saved me. Um, and I was just curious if you were your parents ever religious or
Oh yeah,
anything
dude.
when
I
you were a
grew
kid?
up. I was like Southern Pentecostal and Baptist most of my childhood, and then less as I got older. But I was a Christian until I was like 27 years old.
So, what's your reason to not to back away from Christianity and not be a Christian?
The the Bible.
Well, what about the Bible?
It's a too flawed for what I thought it was. Like I was raised thinking this was inerrant word, ultimate truth, but now I don't think it's any of that. It's just a big old book of a mess, is what it is, really.
Interesting.
And I mean, I could
So,
show you and explain it to you if you got a minute here. That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
sure. I got all day.
Oh shit, that's what I'm talking about. I don't have all day. I got I got about 45 more minutes, but we got plenty of time. I can make my point here. All right. So, just for example, say we start reading in Matthew, right? And if we're trying to
Right.
figure out if this book is true or not, and we're like critiquing it based on the words and information that it's given us. So, I'll give you a nutshell. So, we start reading Matthew. Matthew chapter 1 starts off with a genealogy of Jesus. Now, if you start reading this genealogy, the first problem you come across is that Matthew says there's 14 generations between Jesus and the end of the captivity. But there's not. There's 13. So apparently Matthew can't even count to 14. But on top of that, he goes through a line of a king called Jeconiah, which is Coniah in the Old Testament. There wasn't J sounds back then. But anyway, that line was cursed. In Jeremiah 22, it says Jeconiah or Coniah will not have any descendants sit on the throne of David. So at the very start of Matthew, you have a miscount of genealogies. For one thing, he miscounted the generations. He goes through a cursed line that you can't even use to get from David to Jesus. And then after that, he gets into the virgin birth of the Messiah, right? Now, if you actually go read the prophecy that Matthew is quoting as a prophecy about a virgin birth of a Messiah, it's not even a prophecy about a Messiah. It's a prophecy about a war. It's the king of Assyria is attacking King Ahaz. And it's just completely out of context to say that's a prophecy about the virgin birth of a Messiah. And then in the very next chapter, it goes on to say a prophecy is being fulfilled about the Bethlehem thing. But that one says you actually have to be a ruler. You have to rule from the throne of David in Jerusalem. Then he makes one about Jesus coming out of Egypt. It says, out of Egypt I've called my son. But if you go read that prophecy in the Old Testament, it's not even a prophecy. It's just a retelling of the Exodus. Like he's cherry picking lines. See what I'm saying? And we can just keep going.
Well, see, my reason for that is because Matthew, and it's the same thing with John, it's the same thing with Luke, Mark, all the above there. They don't necessarily talk about the war that's going on, but more necessarily talking about what Jesus did and kind of step by step how he came from being of course Mary and Joseph to getting put on that cross. And it talks about how honestly just step by step how they do it. And definitely in Matthew, because it was the first chapter I actually read in the Bible. Right, and so,
That's why I like to
I
use Matthew
was,
in my examples here. He's by far the biggest mess. Like Luke cleans up a lot of stuff that Matthew makes a poo-poo of.
huh,
Even though
yeah,
Luke don't get
but,
it all right either, it's still better than Matthew.
right, but, it's kind of it's a little weird, but, it does talk about, Matthew 6:33, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. And this verse actually encourages believers to prioritize, I don't know how to say that, prioritize spiritual matters
Oh,
above worldly
prioritize.
concerns. Yeah, prioritize, my bad.
There you
but
go.
it talks about how to spiritual matters above worldly concerns, such as the war that you said was going on in Matthew, right?
Well,
And
my point there is that Matthew is saying this is a prophecy about a Messiah being born, but if you actually go read it, it has nothing to do with any of that. So I'm saying Matthew, that's one of my topics there, is that the New Testament's lying on the Old. I think Matthew's lying about every single one of these prophecies that he's saying Jesus has fulfilled. And I
well,
mean
how do you
all of them.
think he's lying?
Well, like I said, like to say, like, listen to the, hold on, let me go to, where am I at? Okay, I'm already on it. All right, listen to the words here. It says, look, this is what Matthew is saying. Here, I'll just read this last verse here. It says, Matthew is saying, she will bear you a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Look, the virgin shall become pregnant and give birth to a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel. So Matthew is saying, virgin shall become pregnant, right?
Right.
So if you actually read this prophecy, the words don't quite line up. This one says a young woman is with child. So this one is saying a young woman is pregnant. Matthew is saying a virgin will become pregnant. So there's some fundamental differences in the wording already there. But the point is, the main point is that if you just read Isaiah 7, this is about King Rezin and King Pakal teaming up on King Ahaz, trying to conquer Judah in the south and install a client king. So Isaiah comes and God just reassures Ahaz that by the time this child knows how to tell right from wrong, then the two kings attacking him are going to have their lands deserted and he won't have to worry about it. That's it. It's just a reassurance for King Ahaz. It's not a prophecy about
Yeah,
a Messiah.
understandable, but how does okay, so you saying Matthew says this.
Yeah.
What other I don't want to say people, but what other like Luke, Matthew, John, all those what other than Matthew comes close to you as like different or kind of just like how Matthew you say is lying? Is there any other prophets that are lying? Do you
You mean
like want to
prophets in
share?
the Old Testament or from the New Testament?
Yeah, just prophets in the Whole Testament, like Luke, maybe John.
Oh, well, those are
Because
New Testament,
Matthew,
but well, like
yeah,
I
let me
said, that
search.
Luke cleans up some of the stuff that he's saying Jesus did. So Matthew and Luke both basically copied Mark 90%, but added some of their own stuff. And the stuff that they added is different from each other. So Luke, for example, doesn't necessarily say that Jesus is fulfilling prophet. Like Matthew says that verbatim. He wants you to know Jesus is fulfilling this prophecy from the Old Testament. Luke kind of just tells you the same story, but the problem is the stories don't line up when they tell the same stories. And Luke does clean up some of Matthew's actual boo-boos. Like, for example, Matthew says in chapter 21 that Jesus is fulfilling the prophecy from Zechariah 9:9 of the coming king riding a donkey into Jerusalem, right? So when Luke tells the story, he says Jesus rides a donkey, he rode it into Jerusalem. But for some reason or another, when Matthew read Zechariah 9:9, he thought Zechariah was saying there was actually two donkeys. So Matthew is literally saying they got a donkey and a colt, and Jesus rode both of them at the same time, them into Jerusalem. So Luke kind of cleans that up, right? Matthew also quotes a prophecy to Jeremiah when it's actually Zechariah. Luke quotes the same one, but he gets the prophet right. He actually says it was from Zechariah. Those are just a couple examples of Luke getting it right where Matthew got it wrong. Same stories, though.
Right. But how did if they all said the same story, how are they all mixed up? And you said they said the same story. How did Luke fix Matthew's story or, sum it up or fix the bad parts and make it in line if you
Well,
said that?
those were two examples of him actually fixing something from the same story. But they can be telling the same story, like the virgin birth in Bethlehem, but still have two different stories altogether. You know what I'm saying? Like in Matthew, they go to Bethlehem because Joseph is having visions. And they follow like the star and the wise man and stuff, right? But if you read Luke, it don't say nothing about that. It says Mary has a vision, and they go to Bethlehem because Quirinius, the governor, orders the census. So it don't say anything about stars and wise men. And then Matthew says they go to Egypt because Herod is unaliving all the babies, where Luke says as soon as he's born, they purify him in Jerusalem, and then they go straight back to Nazareth. That's what I mean there. They're telling the same story, but it's two different things that are happening in the story. Oh no. I didn't notice he dropped. Wonder how long I talked before. I didn't notice that. Well, I guess we'll just bring you back. Tucker, I see you waiting here, so I'm going to bring you up, but if something like happened where he jumped back up, I'm going to have to put you on mute there, but we'll see what happens if he comes back up. Anyway, Tucker, are you there? Trucker? Oh,
Hey,
Tucker.
how's it going?
Going good, man. Are you over 18?
Oh, yes, sir. Well over. Sorry if I'm out of
Oh,
breath. You
good.
caught me I'm at the gym kind of right now. How you doing
Oh,
today?
no worries. I'm good. You're a Christian?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool. Well, all right, man. Do you want to talk about some of these topics here? Or do you have something
Sure.
comment on something I already said, or?
Well, uh, I guess I kind of want to touch base with you. You're a Christian who became an atheist. I'm an atheist who became a Christian a couple of years ago. So,
Ouch.
and I guess my question to you is because one thing I've discovered, because I've been on both sides of the fence of the theism, atheism argument several times. You know, I've gone back and forth. And one thing I've discovered is that both ends of the spectrum find a good reason to support our bias. So I guess my question to you is, what's important? What's important to you about being an atheist? Why do you think that's more important than seeking a God? I guess seeking the creator of the universe.
Well, it's not really important to me. It's just how I ended up. Like, I was a Christian, and I went to what I call the crazy churches. And when I say crazy,
Yeah,
I mean crazy.
yeah,
I was the dude rolling around in the floor. Like, my bias was this.
right.
But once I actually realized that you should probably question things in life that include stuff like this, and I actually
Yeah,
questioned it, it just fell apart for me. Like, there
yeah,
was no, I may be an idiot, but I'm an honest idiot. When I see a problem, I don't make excuses for it. Like, it's a problem. You know what I mean?
yeah. And that's you're where I was actually, because that's how I grew up. I grew up into a very dogmatic, very the Protestant theology that sort of sets you up for failure because it tells you things that actually are misinterpreted, and a lot of people misinterpret the Bible. So yeah, I was there. I did go to the crazy churches as well, and even when I came back into Christianity, I couldn't mesh well into it because you
Because it's too
know
irrational.
it's too, yeah, exactly. But I guess
How did I know that?
yeah, and the thing but at the end of the day, fought with myself back and forth. Even if Christianity isn't true, on the off chance that it's not, because I think it is, and I think we can support it. And there is a lot that you said about the Bible that is true. That the Catholics, the Romans, they sort of shoehorned their own politics into the New Testament. The people who wrote the Gospels, they did mix a lot of mythology to sort of make Jesus into being something that he's not.
Right.
But to me, that's
So
still.
you already know that, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I've studied the
Hmm.
Old Testament extensively because there was a lot of discrepancies. There's a lot of fake prophecies that are
You're
allocated to
blowing me
people.
away. Why are you a Christian?
Because the thing is, even at the end of the day, the I guess because the thing is, like I said, we both support our biases, right? So for me, uh, the
What could your
reason
boss
I'm.
possibly have been?
What do you mean?
Like, to go from atheism to, like, you see the problems here. Like, where do you get back
Yes.
to, like, it's a truth, you know?
So because the thing is, I'm all about morality. I'm all about justification. And for me, the thing is, Suffering is not justifiable in an atheistic based worldview. It's only justifiable in a theistic worldview. So even if Christianity isn't true, I still default to theist because I think the evidence supports theism, or at the very least, creation of the universe. And I don't think, yeah, that's why I default to theism ultimately because, yeah, in
Why
a sort of a,
Christianity though?
well, that's a good question. That is a cultural thing. I will admit that. It could be I was a Muslim, you know, if I was born in a different region.
Right.
But
It
what I
doesn't sound like you
see,
actually believe it.
well, there's the thing. When I look around at the world, I see evidence of Christianity because I see a created species and I see that this isn't the way things are supposed to be right now. And I think that that's sort of what the Bible is trying to tell us that we're
Well, that
created
could just
beings.
be like Judaism, though. Like Christianity is Jesus specifically,
Well,
and like saved
yeah,
through
yeah,
grace, like that sort
yeah,
of worldview. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
I'm
that's the
not. That's not
thing.
what I'm hearing from you, though.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. See, yeah, you said, as I said, I default to theism ultimately. So even if Christianity wasn't true, I would default to Abrahamic theism, which still encompasses most of all theology in the world. Uh,
Oh.
yeah. So, so anyways, yeah, that's what I
Well,
was saying.
how does religion have the moral high ground over atheist?
Because, like I said, suffering, like the suffering of a child, is only justifiable in a theistic worldview. It's not justifiable in an atheistic
Well, I
worldview.
mean, that's what I'm asking. How's it justified anyway?
Because there's an end game. The world that we see now
Uh,
is not supposed to be the way things are. I think it's just a glimpse of what life is when humans are divided from our creator. And if that's not true, then, and naturalism and pure materialism is true, then it's all just a
yeah,
roll of the
what's wrong with
dice.
that though?
Well, that's a good question. What would you
Why do
tell?
we need to justify suffering? Like to me, it's just sad shit that happens that we should actively work to reduce.
Do you
So I
have
don't see why
children?
that's a problem, though. You know what I mean? Yeah,
You have
yeah, I got two.
children?
Yeah,
And
two.
you know, and I hate, and I know this is a very sensitive subject, so I never like to go here. But I mean, are they healthy? You know, like, are they?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. They're good. They're yeah.
see, now,
You
and
can
here's
say
the thing.
whatever, man. I'm not a
Okay,
offended
well, see,
person. So
here's the thing. I've gone through in ministry. I've gone through a lot of hospitals, seen a lot of children, you know, suffering from debilitating diseases that they were born with. You know, um, and
right.
that kind of wrecks me. You know, and what do you
Yeah, it
say to a
sucks. It's
child?
awful.
Because you can't go to a kid and you know you can't take the liberty to tell them something that their parents didn't teach them. Like if if a parent teaches their child that there's no God, that's their prerogative. I get it. Um, I can't go up to that child and say, "Hey, don't listen to that. There's a God, and you're going to meet him." You know, because it's not. But what do you say to a child who's dying of cancer? You know, they've come into the world. It's been 5 years for them. All they've ever known is agonizing pain. And if it's just pure naturalism and materialism, and the universe is just cyclical, that's a pretty horrible thing to tell to a child. That hey, you're dying of
Well,
cancer.
man, if you're just going to tell them comforting stuff that you don't even think's true, you just tell them whatever you want that sounds good would be the moral thing to do in that case. Like you ain't
Yeah,
going to tell
but
them the truth.
yeah, and I get that, but at the end of the day, there's no justification there because I'm gonna get to walk out of that
You
hospital.
can't
I'm gonna get to,
justify that such thing, though. How can you justify that by
because
saying, but don't worry, when you die, you're going to go to this special place or something like that? But
well,
it's not even, it might not even be true. You're just lying
because
to them.
that admonition is predicated on the idea that heaven doesn't exist and it's not the end goal to get reconciled. For me, it is the end
So you
goal.
think we should believe it because it's all like comforting, right?
I think we should believe it because it justifies, and I think we should believe it for. I mean, that's not the only reason. But that is that's the crux of my basis of my bias, basically. That's my
Huh.
crux. But there's other surrounding. Yeah, there's other surrounding factors, but that is the main reason why I support my bias is because I don't think suffering is justifiable in an atheistic worldview.
I mean, I don't either. but I don't think
Oh,
it's ever
okay.
justifiable.
That's fair. Okay, and you know what? I'm glad that you said that because that is, that's honesty. You're saying that, yeah, you're right. It's not justifiable. Okay, that's fair.
I
And
mean,
I'm not
yeah,
going to
that's
fault
what.
you for it.
But I mean, like, if you read the Bible, though, like a lot of the stuff that the so-called loving God does is
Uh,
absolutely the opposite of justifiable. So I
like
mean, I don't
what?
see how you get to any of this from like what God does. Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
but
Like
that's
he
also
unalives David and Bathsheba's infant child. He
yeah,
slaughters the Amalekite children for what somebody 400 years before that had done. He
right,
tells David to take a census, so David takes it. And for some
right,
reason, that was the wrong answer, and God gets mad and kills 70,000 Israelites as a result. Like, that's not
right.
cool or
Yeah,
loving or
and
justice.
I get that, but that's also using a philosophical view that morality is objective. But if it is objective, you can't actually turn it around and weigh it against the source of
Not,
morality
I don't
because
know.
that's
I don't think there's a such thing as objective morality. I think that's completely
so
made up.
okay.
But if there
So
is a objective morality and you believe in that, then you have to believe God here is objectively doing evil.
so you said that morality is not objective, right?
No, I don't
So
think so. Yeah.
so that means that in some cases certain things are permissible, right?
Well, it depends. You can make weird hypotheticals about stuff, but in general, if you base
Uh,
morality on well-being and consequence, then you can get to
uh,
some pretty objective terms, which is what we do as a society, and saying pretty much schmurder is always bad. You know what I mean? Like,
it
I
is
can say
bad.
that easily, and if I
Yeah.
get new information, I'll change my ways in that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but
But to say there's
just
objective
because,
morals and then to
yeah,
read this book and say this God is that standard is crazy to me.
yeah, but just because certain people commit murder doesn't mean that it's not objectively bad. Just because they see it from their perspective as something that can just brush off and just get over later, that doesn't mean it's not objectively bad. But the thing is, in the secular worldview, if you're telling me right here, right now, that morality is in fact subjective and we all decide, then you're saying that, and this is not a judgment on your character, but I am telling you what the implications are. If you're telling me now
Right.
that morality is subjective, then you're telling me that in some situations, something like sexual assault is permissible.
I mean, maybe there is, but none that I can think of.
Uh, there is no maybe for me in that
Yeah, there's
situation.
no
There's
maybe for me
no,
either. I'm gonna say it's always wrong, even though
but
you
you
can say
just
it's
said,
subjective. But my opinion is still that it's always wrong, no matter what.
yeah, but that to me is evidence that
So
it
in
is
Second
objectively
Samuel,
wrong.
when God has 10 of David's wives raped
Yeah.
for what David does, that's objectively wrong of God, right?
Yeah, but that's also not
Yeah,
an
okay.
injunction on
So
Christians, though.
what makes this God a moral standard when you're saying it's doing objectively evil things that we're
It's
both
that
agreeing is bad? Like,
it's that God. See, and here's the thing: I don't accept most of the Old Testament as historicity. I take it more as an allegory to sort of illustrate the relationship between man and God. I don't really think God did any of these things. So to
what
say,
did God do?
well, He created life.
Did he do all the
He,
good stuff, all the stuff you like,
well, from my
and all the
understanding,
bad stuff he didn't do?
theologically, right? From my
Right.
perspective, God creates life. Um,
Mhm.
life is very intelligent. Life,
Except this life.
well, I guess it depends.
Sorry, I took a shot at me.
No, no. Okay. But yeah, I think, and like I said, the Old Testament to me, it's more allegorical than anything. But I think at some point there was a divide between man and God. And I just think that during the Babylonian exile, when these proto-Jews sort of saw how people were acting, I think they sort of used a lot of historical elements to mix in with their theology to sort of convey the standing between God and man right now. Because that's what I see. When I look around, I see a fallen society. I see something that's not supposed to be the way it's supposed to be. Does that make sense? And I think that, I think that the Old Testament is just an attempt to convey that to the reader, that there's a divide right now.
Well, I mean, I
And
have my view of the Old Testament. I think it's just like I was saying earlier, like it's a
yeah,
perceived history of the Israelites. It's them telling their story. Like when
yeah,
bad stuff happens, they're justifying that by saying God was mad at them. They made God mad. That's why bad things happen to them. It's just humans doing whatever human before us has ever done. You know what I mean?
yeah. And that's, I mean, I see evidence of that even today. I do see, and that's another thing. I see a divide
I just feel like
between,
you'd make a better deist than a Christian.
that's the thing. I'm a
Like you've already
borderline.
said a bunch of blasphemous stuff, unfortunately.
I'm a borderline deist. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said, even if Christianity isn't true, because I know there's good arguments to make for and against Christianity, because I used to
Well,
make
if it
these
is
arguments
true, you
myself.
can't be the lukewarm Christian that you sound like right now.
I don't agree with that. I think that
You don't think you're
admonition.
lukewarm?
No, I don't. I don't think it matters. I think
Bro,
that
you
that
said God
Luke.
was evil.
I think that Luke. Well, that's. I am a borderline
You can't say
Gnostic.
that. That's blasphemy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To like the Bible Belt Christians, I would imagine that this what
Yeah,
I'm
but you got a
saying.
rational brain in your head, so you're calling it like it is. Like, how could you deny that objective morals exist, and
Yeah.
then when God does these things, that it's not objectively the evil part? So yeah,
Well,
yeah, I
like I
hear you,
said,
man.
I don't think God did any of that. I don't think the Creator of the universe actually committed what you're saying He did in the what you and the
Well, how do you
dogmatic
know
Christians
what he
say.
did do and what he didn't do in the Old Testament?
Well, He is the source of love, right? He is the source of objectivity when it comes to deciding the philosophy of the universe. So that's a good question.
Did he
Maybe the
love the
stuff.
70,000 Israelites he unalived here?
Absolutely. If
Really?
that
So it's
happened.
kind of like one of those loves, like I love you, but I have to kill you now.
Well, here's the thing.
Bro, come on now.
Well, no, I mean, if you really want to get into the meat of that theology, one thing we do have to look at is that world was a dark world. It was divided from God, and everything God said don't do, people did, and a lot of what happened to the people was warned. Hey, this is going to happen to you if you do this. Don't do that thing. And what did they do? They did the thing. So if God
They
is
quit keeping
morally,
the law, right?
yeah, if God is morally
But do you
just,
know what the law says?
what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to go back on his word and say, I'm not going to punish you, actually?
I don't know, but if I was this God and I said, "Whew, that I just commanded there was really bad. Sorry about that, guys. I'm repealing that law."
God
But
doesn't
God
make,
don't do that.
well, that's the thing. A calculated God doesn't make mistakes. Everything happened the way it happened for a reason.
You ever read Deuteronomy 22?
Say that again?
You ever read Deuteronomy 22?
Uh, yeah, I think so.
Well, in there it gives a test to how to test if your new wife's a virgin or not on your wedding night. Do you know how they test for that?
Right, yeah. The thing that causes an abortion
Well, that's a
if
different
she,
part. That's in Numbers. This is
yeah.
from Deuteronomy.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Like it's a test to see if she
Yeah,
was
if they
faithful or not.
basically if they don't bleed on a cloth, then that's the test to know if they were a virgin or not, right?
Right. But the thing is, and that's the thing, they took virginity very seriously back then. It was a sacred thing. If a
Yeah, but do
woman
you know the
lost her
problem
virginity,
with that test though?
what's the problem with the test?
That statistically less than half of all women bleed the first time they have sex.
Right,
So
but
statistically, over half of the women that would have been executed for this crime, and
yeah,
the penalty was execution by stoning,
right,
they would have been completely innocent.
right. But that statistic there is predicated on modern society. Things were a lot different back then.
It's predicated on a statistic of females. Like it wasn't
Right, of
different back
modern
then. You know
females
what I
though.
mean?
There's no way you can take aggregate
They
data from
apply
that
to
time
those.
period.
Like that didn't just change somewhere in modern times.
There's no evidence of that.
There's
There's
no evidence that it changed.
there's no evidence that if they would have taken the same statistic at that time period, that it would have been that it would have
Were
given the
they
same
the same
result.
humans that we are now?
Humans change a
Did
lot.
something
Evolution.
Okay, well, show me what changed in female
I can't
anatomy
tell
so
you that.
much in the last 2,000 years or
I
so
can't tell you that because I'm not an
that
evolutionary
statistic's
biologist.
not a less than half anymore.
Well, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
Yeah, but it's what we see.
It's what we see in modern society, but we don't know how
Yeah,
things
but
were
there's
back
no
then.
reason not to apply that to other humans.
Do you know how evolution transpires?
Yeah.
In the span,
We didn't evolve out of we
no,
didn't evolve that trait in modern times. That's no evidence for that.
well, that's a lot. That's thousands of years of mutations in humans. It could have been vastly
Well,
different
okay,
at the
well,
time.
show me something that says that the Israelite women were so different back then with
That's not
hymens that they than less than half of them blew.
that's not my burden
That's
of
what you'd
proof.
have to show me.
I wouldn't have to show you that because I'm not saying that's a
Okay,
thing that
well, you
happened.
don't have to show
I'm
me
saying it's a
that, but I'm saying
possibility.
based on what we know now about humans, then statistically, over half of the women that would have been accused of this crime were innocent.
Maybe, but
Maybe
most of this stuff.
it's a statistical fact
How do you know that though? You can't take that. You can't
because
take
of
aggregate
biology.
data retroactively.
Yes, I can.
You
It's a
can't take
modern
aggregate.
statistical
You can't
fact. Yeah.
take aggregate data retroactively thousands of years ago. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but you can't just say it didn't apply to humans because humans changed that much biologically back then based on
I
nothing.
can
Like we
based
know
on
that less than half of women bleed.
based
Like
on what we
hymens aren't
know
even a thing for real in a lot of women.
based on what we know about evolutionary biology. Have you ever seen the that experiment with the moths and the building that gave off ashes? An evolution happened within weeks, within months, where these moths adapted their color so that they would appear the
Yeah,
same
but a
color.
moth only lives like a day or two.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if
They
you
don't have the
compare
same
that,
reproductive cycle as a human, though.
if
It's
you
not the
compare
same.
that
Right?
chronologically to the life cycle of humans from that era, because we don't know how long that was ago. Could have been
You're talking about to a
6,000.
moth, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying humans, if evolution is true, then these changes could have been made based on even societal pressure. Like,
No,
you
man.
know,
Like evolution happens over long, long periods of time, not like 1,000 or 2 years, and it happens to population, not individuals. Like the entire human population would have had to have changed that much in the last 2,000 years, but that's just humans just haven't changed that much. We know that. Like,
I don't know if that's true. I think we have evidence of
well, I mean,
evolution.
maybe it's not, but you're gonna have to show me
I
something
don't
that
have
backs
to show you that.
that up. You
I
know?
only have to give you the facts of how evolution transpires and mutations
Well, I
happen
already know
generation by
how.
generation.
Yeah, I already
How
know
many
about
generations
evolution
have we
now.
had since the Old Testament? That's a lot of generations of mutations.
Not that many.
It's a lot of generations. Hundreds of
What, five
generations.
or 100? Yeah, it's been hundreds, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's a lot of mutations based passing down from one parent to another. That's a lot
Yeah,
of
sure, but you're talking about a specific one that happened this rapidly over a
yeah.
relatively short amount of time on the
But the thing is,
evolutionary scale.
I'm not really justifying it. I'm not saying, I don't
No,
know enough
I
about
get you,
that.
man. I get you, man. I wouldn't want.
Yeah,
I would have probably said the same thing you are a while back,
yeah.
but I'm just saying I don't think your argument is justified realistically. Like,
Which argument that there has to be a God because of suffering?
what? No, no, no. That women have changed that much in the last couple thousand years
Oh
from
yeah, no,
Israelite women or whatever.
I'm not making that argument that happened. I'm just saying it's a possibility
Maybe. I'm just
based
saying I have
on
no reason to think it is a possibility.
yeah, and that's fine. And that's why I said you support your bias. You come to your conclusion.
It's not a bias. It's just the information I have.
It's a bias. Everybody has a bias.
Okay,
Everybody
what's
support.
the bias in me going with current information?
You have a emotional bias to support the
What is
worldview that
emotional? Which emotion
well,
am I using right now?
whichever one that fuels you to believe there's no God anymore.
Dude, it's me saying statistically less than half of all women bleed their first time. That's just a statistical fact. There's no bias in this for me. Like I'm comparing that back
There's
to
there's
what the
a
Bible's saying.
there's an on.
It's not a matter of bias, it's a matter
I'm
of
not. I'm
information.
not saying there's a bias about surrounding women's periods. I'm saying there's a theological bias there, an ontological one.
Well, if anything, I was the one who didn't have a bias because I was biased to it, and then I went the other way. So now I don't have a bias because I'm
Let
not a
me,
Christian anymore.
okay, let me ask you a question. Um, what would you like? And I'm not saying I have evidence of God because I don't have that. But if I was to ask you, what would you take as evidence for God's existence? What would you say to me?
You mean what would convince me?
Yes.
Oh, it would if the Bible was actually accurate, I'd still be a Christian.
What do
Yeah,
you
if
mean
these
by
prophecies
accurate?
actually happen, I would definitely still be a believer.
Even if Christianity, okay, so let's take Christianity out of the equation for a second. And I was trying to tell you that, okay, I discovered Christianity is not true, but there still is a God. What evidence
Oh,
would you take?
I have no idea. You could show me evidence of like, you have to like if you're doing like science, like a testable thing, like to convince me, then
Scientific
you would have to
evidence.
say like if creation's true, then we would expect to see
Right.
whatever, and then you would have to show me that prediction somehow or another through
Yeah,
testing,
yeah.
which
And
is
that's what I was
basically the
asking.
scientific method.
So you would take scientific evidence, right, of God's existence, something tangible, something you could observe with
Hey,
your
it
own
just
two eyes.
depends, man. If
Yeah.
you can make my hat disappear off the top of my head right now, I'll probably convert right now.
Right, something tangible, something you can witness with your own two eyes. So, like for instance,
Yeah, it's got to be something though. Like I
yeah.
can't just decide gods are true
So if
based
I
on
so
flimsy information. Like,
right, so on that, if I was to take every single mathematical equation I had, every parameter, every anthropic principle, and I was to throw it at you, and I was to say, this is evidence we were designed, what would you say to that?
I would ask you how you got to the design part. You'd have to show me what made it about
Right, right,
design
right. But I just gave
over
you,
like something.
in this scenario, I just gave you a bunch of equations. I just gave you a bunch of parameters. I just gave you a bunch of cosmological constants that sort of give they convey, at the very least, the image of design. I'm sorry if it's loud right now. There's an airplane going over my house.
That's all right. I'll bear with you.
But yeah, so in that scenario, I just threw a bunch of different things at you that say this is my conclusion I came to. This is design. Would you accept that as evidence
Yeah, I
of
mean, if you
God?
can show me if you can show me some justifiable stuff, it'd
Really?
probably sway my opinion. Yeah.
So like a syllogism or like a see, okay, so so that's the thing. This actually kind of went against the point I was trying to make. So now I'm like, okay, well, all right. So you want to know why that's funny because
Yeah, bro,
usually that's
you're
how
making yourself up here. Shit.
well, that's usually how I trap an atheist into admitting his bias because he's like, yeah, of course, I'd only do this. And it's like, okay, so
That's
all
what I'm
right, so
trying to
you're
tell you. Like, I don't have a bias. My bias is to the information. Like, whatever you can
okay.
show me factually is cool with me.
Okay, so here's why I think the universe, at the very least, is designed. Okay, and I'll just
Like,
leave you with this, and you don't have to. Like I said, it's not going to matter to me as a Christian. My theological perspective is that there is no hell. Everyone's going to eventually get reconciled back to God after we die, no matter what you do in this earth, because we're
that's
already
sweet of
facing
you.
judgment. But so here's the reason I think the universe is designed. We're going to start with, for one, I don't think nothing can exist. I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
a bad concept. I don't think there's
Me
such thing
too.
as anything. I'm sorry. I don't think there's such thing as nothing. I think something must always
Me
exist,
either.
right?
Me too.
So because nothing can't exist ever, to me, something must always exist. There has to be something eternal, right? There has to be something that is non-contingent, that our contingent existence is contingent
Sure.
on, which that's what this is.
I agree.
The
Yeah, we're in
universe,
agreement so far. Keep going.
from my understanding, based on physics, based on like the cosmic background radiation, the Big Bang and everything. From my understanding, the universe as we know it is not eternal. And I think it's not eternal because we can't trace time infinitely backwards. And that means we're not going to be able to trace it infinitely going forward. So because the universe is not infinite, it's reliant on something eternal to give life to the universe. Um,
Why
and
not
I
just matter and energy?
because energy is not eternal.
Sure it
And
is. It can't be created or destroyed.
well, that's okay. And here's the thing. A lot of people say that the second law of oh no, sorry, not the second law. The energy is constant or whatever. That law that states energy is eternal is only contingent on an isolated fixed amount of energy. Once the parameters surrounding that energy fall apart, I don't know what happens to that energy, but it ceases to exist because it only exists. Its contingency is the universe existing. So yes, energy can't be created or destroyed in an isolated system. But once that isolated system is gone, I don't know what happens to that energy, but it ceases to
Has
exist.
the isolated system ever been gone?
Well, according to the cyclical universe, yes. The
I don't know.
cyclical
From what I
universe.
know about modern physics, they think all that's eternal, like quantum fields. Like there's some sort of quantum field that would qualify as like eternal matter
And
and
that's,
energy.
to me, that's sort of like a cope. We can't really see beyond the Big Bang. Even people like
Sure, but
Alexander
it has
the
sound math.
Lincoln.
At least the math is there. Like it can be demonstrated mathematically, whereas a God can't. You know what I mean?
I don't think it can be demonstrated mathematically what transpired before the universe, because even when you
I
get
can't
there,
demonstrate it mathematically, but like, have
right?
you ever, you know who Dr. Blitz is?
Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, you ought to talk to him sometime. He can explain it and do the math. So,
Yeah. But that's the thing, and you're gonna find physicists who are theists and atheists who both have different things they're gonna tell you, and that's why I don't. That's why I say we all support our biases.
well, I don't
30.
have a bias in physics. I'm not a physicist. I just tell you the little bit I
Yeah,
know about it,
but
but it's not a thing that I debate on here. Like I stick with
yeah,
Bible and Christianity arguments, not so
you're
much
giving me. Yeah, but that's the thing.
cosmological stuff.
You're giving me information from the bias and like that guy that you just mentioned, Dr. Blitz. He's gonna support his bias. That's
Well,
what I'm
he's an
saying.
actual expert in physics. Like I'm
Yeah,
saying,
but
if you want to talk about physics, he'd be better than me to talk about it because he actually
right.
knows and studies and can explain it. You know what I mean?
But 33% of the world's physicists, just like him, are Christians. So
No,
whose
I don't think it's
information
that
should I
many.
trust?
Almost
Huh?
all physicists I know over atheists now.
Yeah, but like I said, there's Christian physicists that support their bias, that this can all be tied back to a God, and that's the point I was trying to make at the root of it all, was that we all
I mean,
support our
that's what
bias.
sounds like a bias to me is a physicist that's trying to tie it to a God, whereas the other ones are just trying to figure out what's true. And they'll
Right, but that's
anything
the
that's
point.
mathematically sound can be proposed as a supposed. That's not bias. That's just going with the information.
Well, that's the thing. If there is no God, the information that you're reading is subjective and it's subject to change. Everything that we
Is
know
math
about the universe.
subjective?
Huh?
Is math subjective?
No, it's not. But we
Okay,
can
then
use
it's
math
mathematically
to,
sound. Then it's objectively mathematically sound at the minimum, I would think.
yeah, but we can use math to come to theological conclusions.
No, you can't. You
So
can't
that's what I'm
do
saying.
God math. There's no such thing.
Well, I think that's a biased question. I think that's a biased statement because I think math comes from God. I think it's something that was discovered and not
Yeah, but you would
created by
have to
humans.
actually show that. Like to me, that's what sounds like a bias.
Well, do we not see mathematical parameters in the creation of the universe?
I mean, there's
The
math in the
Fibonacci.
universe, but to me, that doesn't suggest a God. It just
Well,
suggests the
yeah, but
universe,
that's
I
what I'm
guess.
saying. Like we both use our understanding to support our biases. You're saying math is probably something a metric
Yeah,
that
but I'm saying
humans
I don't
can.
have a bias in this matter, though. It's
It
not
is a
important to
bias,
me
though.
whether a God does or doesn't exist. Like you can tell by the Bible that the Christian God don't exist.
Well,
But like
I don't
some
think so. I think that's
deistic creator type God, you know what I'm saying? That's a totally
like,
different story.
but that's the point I'm trying to make. You do have a bias. If I was to tell you that these were evidences of a creator, you will always defer to, I would rather have a data secular explanation for that instead of
No, that's
saying,
not
okay,
true. If you give me good enough evidence to convince me, then I have no choice but to go with that.
so you don't think the Fibonacci sequence and the Mandelbrot set are evidence of design in the universe?
I don't even know what those are.
They're mathematical equations.
I I just know the Bible's not true. Like you can probably get me to some like Buddhist god if there's even a Buddhist god. I don't think they have
Yeah,
gods.
but
You
that's the
you can get me
thing.
to some other god, but you just can't get me to the Christian God, not through the Bible anyway.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You digging your heels in that it can't possibly be the Christian God. It's a bias. That's
No,
not
it's
a
not a
data
bias.
thing.
It's I already had the bias that it was the Christian God. Now I've eliminated that bias through actual research.
To adopt a new bias. And I think that's the
No,
thing is that a lot of
no,
because I was
you keep saying I'm biased. You keep making this about a bias, but I have arguments that I can show you that make this completely false. It's not about a bias, it's about the information.
they
That's what I'm
don't
trying to tell you.
that's the thing. You can't falsify the Bible because it's not an
I
authoritative
can. It's
text.
not even hard.
You can't falsify the Bible because it's
I
not an
can. It's not
authoritative
even hard.
text.
I can show you where it says something is going to happen, like a prophecy that definitely don't happen.
Yeah,
That's not
but
a bias.
that's
It's
you're
saying
just
something's going to happen that didn't happen. That's
when
not
you
accurate
say
information.
that, all you're proving is that someone interpreted the text wrong and said this is a prophecy when it's actually not a prophecy. That's not disproving the Bible. That's just disproving dogma.
It's proven it's lying about what a prophecy
No, it's
is,
not proving a
or
lie.
that it don't know. It is. If
It's
it's
not all
saying
it,
something as a prophecy that's clearly
that
not a
that
prophecy, then that's
argument.
either a lie or it's really bad information.
Just because some people tied in some things that weren't going to happen into Jesus' story to make him seem like something more than he was is not a lie, and it's not proving the Bible is an
No, it is a
untruth.
lie if it didn't happen.
It's not a lie. It's just
It is a lie.
a lot of people do this in literature to convey a moral law,
They
to convey a
lie to
moral lesson.
convey a fact
It's
that
not a
Jesus is a
lie.
Messiah to make him a
That's
Messiah when he's clearly not,
that word
is what
lie
I'm
though.
saying.
It comes with very deep implications. I don't think
Yeah,
that's sort of saying that the gospel writers had an intention to deceive. I don't think they had an
they
intent to
did.
deceive anybody.
They did.
No, the gospel writers themselves, like the people who wrote the manuscripts, I don't think they had intention to deceive. I think they saw some crazy things and thought Jesus was more than
Oh,
what
well,
he
I
was.
mean, they might have believed it and wrote it as they believed it, but if they're
Yeah.
intentionally changing things and saying Jesus did stuff that he clearly didn't do, then
But here's the
if
thing, you're
they're
taking a
either
very
lying or have a really, really, really bad understanding of what they're trying to say is happening here.
right, and that's the thing. A lot of the people who wrote the New Testament thought Jesus was coming back sooner than he actually was. And
Right.
that's a mistake on their part, but that doesn't mean they had the intention to deceive
Well, if
anybody.
it was a mistake, it definitely wasn't true, was it?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they intentionally lied to deceive
Right.
people.
Yeah. That's what I
That's
was
where
saying
that
earlier. Like, if it was
yeah.
just a simple case that here and there they passed on
Uh,
bad information, but that's not the case. Like, it's literally one after another, a snowball of bad information. So to me,
I
they're just
don't
lying
well,
about it.
I don't know if that's like the scholarly consensus on that because even atheist scholars admit there's a lot of historicity in Acts and the epistles. So I don't know if that I think that again, I think that's a heavy
Is
bias
there?
saying that a lot of this was even Bart Ehrman, he wouldn't say that the gospel writers were being deceitful in any way. They were just trying to make Jesus more fancy than he was to inspire hope and,
I've read like
inspire.
10 of his books. I'm not sure I would agree with either.
Bart Ehrman is not a Jesus mythicist. He's not
He's not a Christian
somebody.
either.
Yeah, but he doesn't hold
Do you
your
know why he's
position
not a Christian?
because he supports his
Because the
bias.
Gospels aren't reliable. He says that all the time. He wrote a lot of books on it.
It depends on what you mean by reliable. Like
I'm talking about
that,
Ehrman. What he means by unreliable, and that means bad information. It means
well,
factual and incorrect information.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think I've seen a
Have you
lot
read
of
his books?
interviews with Ehrman. Yeah, I read Jesus Interrupted, and that's how I
Mm.
know that they sort of made a lot of these assumptions about Jesus, that they told a lot of stories about him that weren't true to sort of build him up to
Yeah, that's
be the
called
guy.
lying.
That's not lying. That's just
It is lying.
that I don't know. That comes with I don't like that
No,
word
well, what
because I
would
don't
make it
think
a lie was that they're doing it intentionally. That's where a lie comes in. They can be
yeah
mistaken and passed on bad information.
yeah
And like I said, if it was a case or two here and there that they were wrong,
yeah
I would say they're mistaken. But
yeah,
that's not the case here.
and
This is
that's
an
fine.
entire book filled of
Yeah
a giant misunderstanding that happens over and over and over again.
yeah. Like I said, I know people take scripture out of context. I know that hell
I'm
was
not taking it out
created.
of context.
Well, a lot of people that you're arguing against have taken it out of context. They've created things
Oh,
that,
maybe they have, but I mean, I'm not. I know what the context is about. Like the context is on my side. Like when it says
it
Isaiah
can't
7
be.
is a prophecy about a war, that's what the context is. It's a
Well,
war.
that's a very secular interpretation of the text, but that doesn't mean it's
Well,
true.
it means the context is true because that's
No,
what
it
it's
doesn't.
describing.
It doesn't
Yes,
mean
it
the
does.
context is true. That's the secular consensus on the context.
What other context could there possibly be in a story about two kings attacking another king and trying to
Well,
conquer him?
yeah, but that's that's
What
been
else could there
interpreted.
possibly be?
It depends on how you interpret the story because it's not an authoritative text.
Okay, well, interpret it. Tell me the interpretation there. Two
I
kings are
don't.
trying to conquer another king. Is
My
that a story about a
interpretation.
war or
My
something else?
interpretation doesn't matter. How I interpret it, it doesn't matter. It all that matters is that both ends have interpreted it differently. Just like the book of Revelations, seculars and Christians alike both interpret the text. Some Christians say that it's prophetic. The secular world says it's just Roman propaganda. It's conveying a picture of the Roman politicians at the time. Everybody
Right.
interprets the text differently. So that's all
So
I'm
how do we
saying.
figure out who's right?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It's
I don't.
pretty easy,
I
actually.
don't even
You
think.
you use the information that the words
Yeah.
are giving you and compare
Yeah.
that to all the other words and all the information that it's saying is happening and see if it all lines up. If it
Yeah.
don't, then it's not good
But
information.
yeah. Well, but again, that just defaults to interpretation. It's not an
Well,
authoritative
sure,
text.
but like I was saying, we can figure out who's most likely right and who's most likely wrong in
I
different
don't.
interpretations based on the actual information that the text has given us.
I don't
That's
think
why
so.
authors write things so they can convey their thoughts to whoever's reading the stuff.
I I don't think so. I don't think that's how that works. I
No.
think even Dan McClellan says that he's not right when he's saying something. He's just conveying. I mean, he said this himself. He's just conveying the secular consensus on the context, but that doesn't mean that it's the objective, true interpretation because it's not. There's no authoritative interpretation. There's nothing there, to be taken like a fact.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you have to go off the context and the information of the words
Yeah.
he was giving you.
And if you do go off the context, it just depends on how you interpret it.
Well, I interpret it by the words, what it's saying. If it says there's a war going on and people are fighting and people are dying, then I'm assuming it's about a war.
And another thing is that those are a lot of allegorical, sort of poetic things to mix historicity with their theology at the time, and that's why.
Sure, but the actual words make sense to what it's talking about. There's an actual story and a purpose for what it's saying. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But I don't know. I don't know the
Even though it's
context
written
of what you're talking
poetically.
about anyway. I don't know the scripture or the context that you're talking about, so I wouldn't even be
I
able
was
to
talking
say.
about Isaiah 7 right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and Isaiah was a prophet or something.
Yeah,
He made a lot of
he was the son of Amos.
yeah. Yeah, and again, that's just I don't know. That's like splitting hairs, and I think we've gone off course big time.
Oh, maybe. I don't Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's why I think both ends support their bias, and I think you're gonna dig your heels in on that you don't have a bias. But I think if we go uh,
Well, I'm
to a
saying the
more like
bias don't
scientific,
matter. Like we're debating, we can get to actual information here to figure out
yeah,
who's being more accurate in what we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like bias
yeah,
don't
and I
make a
think
difference. You can have
I
whatever
think
bias you
scientific,
want, but you got to be able to show
yeah.
that in a discussion like this.
Yeah, and I think scientifically, I've been a bit more accurate about the composition of the universe, and how it points to design. I don't think you really gave me much pushback on that. You just kind of said,
I
I
don't
don't.
have much to give on that. That's what I said. I said if
Yeah,
you want to talk about that, I would talk to an actual physicist or something.
yeah, which I have. I
I never
follow a
even
lot
made
of
it through middle
physicists.
school, bro. Like you'd be crazy to listen to me. Like I'm just telling you
Yeah,
what I know about it.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
know a lot
and
about the
I'm going
Bible in
by.
its context. Coincidentally, I'm well
Yeah,
qualified,
and
I
I
think, to
wouldn't.
argue about a lot of this.
I wouldn't propagate any information that I didn't get from an actual physicist because I don't like that. I don't like the spread of misinformation. I wouldn't say anything here that wasn't supported by science, And so that little scenario I gave you as to why the universe itself can't be eternal is sort of why I think it points to God. outside of the universe. I don't think what we see is self-replicating. I don't think it's possible. It could be, but like I said, I don't lean that way as the atheist
From
leans
what
the
little
other
bit
way.
I know, I would go with like the big bounce, big crunch theory. Like the universe is just in a constant state of expanding
Yeah.
and contracting back and forth. But then again, who knows? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I don't blame the atheist for believing what they believe.
well, that's
I
why I
don't I
won't
don't think
like
it's
argue about that kind of stuff a lot too. Like we can talk about that
yeah.
till we're blue in the face, but it's ultimately
Yeah.
not going to get us in a
Because
debate to who's right or wrong. But when it comes to the
yeah.
Bible, I can show you what it says.
Yeah,
We could
but
argue on
again,
context, but I think the context is with me on whatever I'm talking about.
it depends on what you're using the context for, because you've said a lot of things, and like I said, what you're disproving is you're not really disproving Christianity. You're just sort of disproving an interpretation of Christianity,
Sure,
like when
but if
people,
it's all based on an inerrant perfect book, then
it's
this is
not
obviously
perfect.
not that. So it starts to break down. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. That argument right there is predicated on the theology that the Bible is the inerrant word of God. I don't think it is inerrant. I don't think it's supposed
I
to
don't
be. I think
either.
it's supposed
Like, but a whole lot of Christians do though, and
yeah,
including
yeah,
me
but
when I was a Christian. That's what I was raised thinking.
but that's the thing. Just because they believe that and you disprove that doesn't mean you're disproving Christianity. You're just disproving a view of
Sure, but I'm
Christianity.
proving what they thought was wrong, and that's what these debates are
What
about.
they
But I
thought
can
was
break it
wrong,
all
but
the way
not.
down to the Bible being completely not true in pretty much any sense. It just takes a while.
You can't do that though. You
Oh, I
tried.
can.
That's You can't do that. You can't
I can.
disprove the truth of the Bible. All you can do is prove that
Oh, I can.
some of these books,
Nope. I
are
can prove it.
flawed. You cannot.
I can
You
prove they're
haven't been
all
able to
flawed.
so
All
far.
these none of these prophecies happened. They're not
Okay.
true.
That
None of the New Testament
okay.
prophecies happened. They're certainly not about Jesus. Jesus didn't do all this stuff.
Even
It's just
that's the
it's a
thing
big
though. I don't think
religious
that's the thing.
cult
Even
cope.
if you were to disprove every single prophecy, that still wouldn't disprove Christianity. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, it would to anybody with half a twit in their brain because they would know that it's
No, it
not
wouldn't.
true. Yes,
It
it
would
would.
it would just disprove one interpretation of
If somebody
Christianity.
can be shown that everything in this book is false and they're still a Christian, then they're just insane. That's all there is to it.
But that's the thing. You can't show that everything in that book is false.
Sure, I can show the main
No, you
parts of it
can't.
are.
There's
I
too
can.
much historicity in the Old Testament, and there's too much
Nope.
historicity in the New
Yeah, it
Testament.
takes a while. I can't do it in like 20 or 30 minutes of talking to somebody, but like, yeah, that's
You
what I
can't.
do. I sit here
That's
on
the
this
thing.
channel.
But
Like, I've got videos where I read for an hour
okay,
or two straight, like doing commentary on stuff, but I
so
can
all
break
right,
down the entire book or part of that book.
was an apocalyptic priest named Jesus executed in Rome?
Maybe.
Okay, well, if you can't disprove that, then you can't disprove the Bible.
That's what?
If you can't disprove that, then you just said you're going to
Yeah, but
disprove
if the Bible
everything
can't
about the
prove
Bible.
that, then the Bible's not true. It's just,
The Bible doesn't
trust me,
have to
bro.
prove that. That's the
The Bible
scholarly
does have to
consensus.
prove it. If you make the claim,
No,
you
it
have to
doesn't.
prove it. Yes, it does.
That is a historical fact that a priest named Jesus was executed in Rome. That's a historical
No,
fact.
that's definitely not a historical fact. It's
So you
a
okay? So
historical
in that
consensus.
case, you're cherry picking Bart Ehrman because he thinks a priest named Jesus was
No, that's one
even
dude. You're
then.
cherry picking one dude. I'm saying it's a possibility, but it's not a historical fact. It's a
Yeah,
historical
but
consensus. But a
it's
fact
it's
is
a
a loose
historical
term
fact.
there in this case. Yeah.
There's more. There's
Well, maybe
more
it was, but you
evidence.
still can't prove he was a Messiah who was actually God himself and did
Yeah, but
miracles
you
and saved
just.
everybody from
Yeah, but I'm
sin.
just
Like, that's
saying. You
completely
just said you
different.
could disprove the Bible.
Yeah.
You just said that you could disprove every single fact about the Bible. That is a fact
Yeah,
about
and
the
I can
Bible.
prove that
So
story we're talking about is absolutely bogus based on what the New Testament is saying about it from the Old Testament.
all you can prove is that a lot of people added things to the New Testament, but that's not disproving what Jesus came to do.
It
That's
doesn't
not
necessarily
disproving that he
disprove
was
it, but it
executed.
shows you that there's no reason to think it's true. It shows you they're
That
lying
doesn't
about
show me
things.
that reason. That doesn't give me that
Yes, it
reason.
does. Well, it should. If
That,
they're
that,
telling a bunch of lies, then you shouldn't believe
that
them.
that's not a good enough argument to say atheism is a better mindset for me to
I'm not
adopt.
arguing atheism's true. I'm arguing the Bible is wrong based on what the Bible is saying.
And that, well,
That's
how can
that's
the
two
Bible be
different things.
wrong? How can the Bible be 100% wrong if it has historicity in it?
I didn't say it was 100% wrong.
You just said that it was 100% wrong.
No, I said I can prove all the main tenets of the Bible wrong, not that every single thing in the
That's
Bible is wrong. So you got
you
to listen
can't
to words
disprove the
better.
main. That's that you can't
I
disprove the
can.
main tenets
You
of the
keep saying I
Bible.
can't, but I can. We're not
Okay,
even
so
talking about the actual
you
substance.
can't
I'm
though.
telling you
That's the
that like
thing.
I do this all the time. Like I can read it. I know the
Okay,
historical parts
so
that are supposed to be
so then
important,
you
but
can
they didn't
okay, so
happen.
by your own admonition, then you can prove to me that there's no God and he's not the source of morality.
I can prove
Because
to you that this book isn't true. That's what I'm trying to get you to
that's the
understand.
main tenet of that book is that there is a God, he created the universe, and morality is
There is
objective.
this God, yes.
Yes. That is the God of the universe. You can disprove that to me because that's what you're saying.
I can prove that the Bible isn't true when it claims that, yes.
That's a mirror image of what I just said. You can disprove to me not a God. You can tell me there's no God right now.
This God.
If there is a God, that is God.
No, certainly not.
That is the main tenet of the Bible, is that a God exists. He is the
The God of
foundation of morality.
Israel, the gods they made
Right.
up, that used to
The
be a
God,
Canaanite pantheon of gods who started off as a minor
right.
deity and somehow rose to the top and then became
Okay.
the only God in existence somehow or another, even though it clearly says there's other gods.
Yeah, there is other gods, and I'm not saying
Yeah,
there's
right.
not.
So how is
Those
God
are
the
part
only
of
God if
well,
there's other gods?
because they're under Yahweh's pantheon. They're
Right.
in Yahweh's pantheon.
So there is other gods.
Right. But they're not the
But it says there's
creator
not.
God.
No. Okay. So there's a whole lot of gods, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of under gods, sure. I would say so.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, unless you can
So
prove
God tells you how to test for prophets, but the prophecies don't happen, which means they're not prophets. But all the prophecies that God tells you are going to prophesy stuff don't actually happen, but it means this God is real.
I don't know what prophecies you're talking about. That's the thing that
All of them, the Old
I,
Testament prophecies.
God says that you can test a prophet by if it came true.
Mm-hmm.
Where does he say that?
Deuteronomy 18. Deuteronomy 18.
Can you read that to me?
Maybe. You've never read the test of a prophet in
No.
Deuteronomy 18?
Mm-mm.
Well, be damned.
Well, I probably have, but I just don't retain the information. I don't think it's important.
Oh, well, don't worry. Oh, it is important. It tells you how to test for a prophecy. That's pretty important.
So, but that's the thing. Even if Isaiah is a bad prophet, that doesn't disprove God.
If all of the prophets speaking in God's name can't seem to back up what this God is saying, then why would I think that God has given anybody factual information at all?
These are a lot of different books. A lot of different books compiled together to make
Yeah, so Deuteronomy 18 says, you may say to yourself, how can we recognize a word that the Lord has not spoken? If a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, but the thing does not take place or prove true, it is a word that the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously and you should not be frightened by it.
Okay, so what prophecies have Isaiah said that are going to happen that haven't happened?
He said after the Babylonian captivity that Cyrus is going to rebuild the city and lay the temple foundations. And he says, when this happens, he says the Israelites will never again be confounded or put to shame. And he also says that this covenant will never again be broken. And he says if it is broken, then Israel will cease to be a nation before God forever.
Okay, so what happened to those Israelites in that time? In the Bible, does it say that that didn't happen?
No, it tells you what's going to happen after the end of the captivity.
Okay, so what
So
happened
history
then?
shows us that definitely did not come true because they've been confounded and put to shame about 1,000 times since then. Israel has been overthrown. There's no throne, no king of David sitting on the throne. There's no Levitic priest making sacrifice every day. So the
Yeah, but
prophecies obviously didn't come true.
there's a bifurcation there between the Israelites in the Bible and the Israel that we know today. I think you're conflating.
There's not in Isaiah or Jeremiah.
What do you mean? You're
I mean, that's only
you're
talking about
confusing.
one Israel. It's talking about the Israelites in captivity.
Right, but those aren't the Israelites that you're talking about today, the modern Israelites.
No, these Israelites in the Bible were from back then. I'm saying today we know that this stuff never happened. That the Bible's saying is going to happen. We know it didn't happen.
Wait, hold on. How are you arguing that this stuff happened and at the same time saying this stuff never happened? I don't understand that.
The Babylonian captivity happened, right?
Okay. Right.
That's historically verifiable. There's all kind of cultures that mention this. There's firsthand accounts from the Middle
Right.
East itself, from all different kind of
But
people.
what I'm
So
asking
this,
you is,
yeah, that's what I'm
what I'm
saying.
asking you is
So we
the
know the
story.
Babylonian captivity happened. So when the
Yes.
Bible writes about it and says after they rebuild the city, which we know happened, that it'll
Mhm.
never be uprooted or overthrown ever again, and the Israelites
Mhm.
will never be put to shame again. And the throne of David will always have a man to sit on the throne, and Levitical priests are going to make sacrifices forever. We know that that didn't happen because we know that the Babylonian captivity ended like this says it was, but these prophecies that it said was going to happen to accompany that definitely didn't happen.
Mhm. The Israelites. You're talking about the
Yeah,
Israelites, but
yeah.
I guess I don't
This
know
is
the
the
story.
Israelites writing. This is their history. This is their God.
Uh-huh.
This is the God of the Israelites. You know?
Right?
Right. That's what the Old Testament is. It's a perceived
And you're saying, yeah, and
mythological
you're
history.
saying that the in the Bible, Isaiah said something was going to happen, and in the Bible it didn't happen.
It didn't happen in reality.
How do you know that? Because you're
Have the
conflating.
Israelites
You're
been
conflating
ashamed and
what
confounded since then? Has Jerusalem been uprooted and overthrown since
what
2500
happened.
BCE?
What happened to the Israelites in the Bible? That's what, because that's not the same Israel we're talking about today. You're talking about the nation of Israel, the people who call themselves Israel.
I'm talking about the
I don't think it's the
Israelites
same thing.
in the Bible.
Yeah, I don't think those people exist today.
Well, some of them do. There's still Israelites around, but they're not a
And they
nation
say
before
they're,
God because the prophecies
they,
didn't happen.
yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, I don't know enough about that. I don't
I
think
can show
that
you if we had
Israel.
time. It's all explicit writing here. Like it's all straightforward. Like in Jeremiah 31 here, it says it tells you what the new covenant is. It says God's going to
Uh,
redeem you and write His law in
yeah,
your hearts and mind and remember your sins no more. There's no
yeah,
sacrifices or anything required. And then right after
yeah.
that, in verse 36 here, it says, "If this fixed order were to ever cease from my presence, says the Lord, then the offspring of Israel will cease to be a nation before me forever."
So all that's saying is that Israel isn't God's Israel right now. That's
Forever.
okay, but how does that disprove the Bible I don't know.
This
How
means
does I
God
don't
don't have a nation anymore. There's no
and
Israelites.
that
There's no Israel. There's no nothing. God's abandoned the
okay,
earth.
but that doesn't yeah, and I agree with that. I agree that God abandoned the earth. That's why
Yeah, so
that's
there's
why I
no
don't
God.
think
He's not talking to anybody. Like he's not showing you any sign. He's just existing right now. We're doing our own thing, and he ain't bothering with
yeah,
anybody.
and I can
Okay.
get behind that, but how does that disprove God? I'm not trying to be rude or anything. That just doesn't I don't know, that
No, I
doesn't
got you. No,
disprove
I
God.
get it. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's enough. I think if people
Yeah,
make
this doesn't
mistakes,
totally disprove God like you're suggesting it doesn't. But when I read a bunch of prophecies that the entire book is based on, and they're all this, I have no reason to think it's true either. Because
that's
this is
okay,
all
and that's a thing.
clearly didn't happen.
There's something we can see eye to eye on. And again, that's a reason why I'm not a dogmatic Christian the way other Christians are. I'm not afraid
Yeah, it's
to
because you have
admit that
some common sense in there.
yeah, there's definitely some sus things that happened in the compilation of the Old Testament, but I don't think that's a good enough argument to say there's no God. And you can say that it's not the interpretation, like the God
Well,
that could
even,
exist.
yeah, but even if you have this God, like even if I gave you that and said, okay, this
Uh,
God totally exists, now what? God's not coming back. We're abandoned. Like we're all going to hell anyway. So what's the point in being a Christian?
we're not going to hell. Don't worry. There's not a place of eternal
Well, that's
conscious
not
torture.
biblical. The New Testament says when Jesus comes back, He's sending the sheep and the goat into eternal fire or eternal torment. That sounds like hell to me.
That
Or either eternal
that's
fire
in
or eternal life.
yeah, that's it. That's in Revelation.
No, it's in
That's
Matthew.
that's in Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew 25. He separates the sheep and the goats.
to go into an eternal fire.
Yeah.
But something that burned like eternal fire, that doesn't mean
Pretty
that the
clear.
thing going in. That doesn't mean the thing going into the eternal fire. See, that's the thing. Jesus used a lot of like poetic, sort of like coded
Yeah, it says in
words.
46 and Matthew 24, it says, and these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. So it's saying you're going to be punished for eternity.
I don't know. I don't think that's the right interpretation of that. I don't think that's
Well,
I don't
sounds
think
like
that's
it
what
to
that
me.
means. I mean, yeah, it just depends on the translation. But I don't think most Christians these days accept eternal hell as an actual thing. I don't think.
You
I
should come
think
on
that's
the show more.
I think that's
I'm telling you,
eisegesis.
you're one of the odd men out here. I'm telling you right now.
Oh yeah, I know. Trust me, I get ostracized by other Christians. I do. I
Yeah.
get ridiculed. I get chased out of churches because I ask questions. But again, that's still not enough for me. That's not
I
enough
mean,
for me
if you was
to.
the real Christian, you'd still get chased out of churches. But no, I hear
Probably.
you, man. But actually, I'm gonna have to jump off here now. But
Yes,
it
sir.
was great talking to you. You
Yeah, you
were
too, man.
really cool to talk to. At least, I mean, we were contentious, but you
Yeah.
guys are cool, so that's cool. I can talk to you
Yeah,
all
and I
day,
gave you a
man.
follow. I gave you a follow, so I'd like to talk to you again someday. But
Yeah,
all right, sir.
let's come back sometime and let's actually we'll
Yeah.
jump into like some of these Old Testament prophecies, and I'll show
All
you
right.
the context. I'll show you exactly what it's talking about. And there's no question for interpretation.
Yeah.
These words are absolutely clear as day.
All right. I look forward to it.
All right, cool, man. Well, all right, you have a good one, buddy. I appreciate the follow and
You
stuff.
too. All right. See you
Have
later.
See you, man. Have a good day. Well, all right. So, started a live. Got it shut down for the first time for apparent hate speeches that nobody can figure out what I said or whoever said. But we fired it back up. Got it going in here. So, we'll try to jump on before long again. We will catch y'all later.